right. Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday, and welcome to another episode of Crypto with English. So, I'd like to introduce a very special guest here, the Solar Cowboy, Ft.Eyob Irko, the founder of MeTaFurKitty NFT collection. Today, we're going to get into the weeds about the underlying technology, the philosophy, and where this project will scale to and what's next. So, Ft.Eyob, thank you very much for coming on to the show.
Hey man, that was one of the best intros in the world. But when the camera goes off like that, what happens is we audible. But I really do appreciate you for that. It was a warm welcome. And just to let you know, it is I'm one of the founders. Greg Nuss and Rachel Lambeth are actually also the one of the main founders of this project, and we'll kind of go into that. But I really do appreciate your warm welcome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. So, what was the inspiration, and I guess you could say the impetus, and as far as driving this idea and creating it? MeTaFurKitty. Let's get into the technology. Let's get into the collection and your why behind this project.
Yes. So, for the main focus of this is to create a utility that allows, welfare organizations and nonprofits to be able to utilize blockchain as a form of being able to, vehicle donations. That's really, the heart of it. But it actually formed from Greg and Rachel using the cat emojis. So when you're throwing up the cat emojis on your phone, there's only about 9 of them, right? You have all the different smiley faces, right? And so they're like, well, there's got to be a lot more. There's got to be something in between it. But, I think the cool part about this creator movement is, like, at the time that was happening, it also, I think, dawned down to them that this is the time to figure out, okay, what is the usability of this in the use case, and ultimately paired it to a place that they really feel passionate about. It's a Lanai cat sanctuary out of Hawaii. And so ultimately, that is what it came down to. So this project is actually a way for us to be able to bring a lot of awareness to a place that has created pretty much a sanctuary for stray cats and allows them to live it out in the wild. To be honest with you, I want to be one of those cats myself, because when you see what they create out there, it's like a little Tarzan rainforest.
That's awesome. And by the way, you know what else is awesome? Your cowboy hat. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It is the real authentic one. It's from Cavender's, and
nice.
And so yeah, and I learned a little bit of something about cowboy hats. When you go get sized, make sure you put it on, right, and then you hold it.
Yeah.
And shake your head, and if there's too much movement in the skin, it's too loose. You want it so that it's moving your head. That's the right size. Long story short, mine is too big, and I found out afterwards. But we repurposed it.
Wow. So there's a process as far as getting one, getting sized, and I guess how it looks as far as I guess you could say your face and your just kind of your overall appearance.
No, I mean it's the whole process. I mean, this is what I like about that. Like when you go to an authentic Western store, the whole process is actually like creating your own version. I mean, if we talk about non-fungibility of things, it's being able to put your stank on it, as they say. And so it's like, being able to go in there, you could put your own ribbons in there. You could put your own little, whatever you want, but ultimately it's just, repurpose, retool something and be able to come out something, with something creative.
That's great. Well, listen, man, I'm going to have to check that out when I visit you in Texas later this year.
No, for sure. We're going to get you some Cavender's QR codes or something.
Good stuff. Well, I got to say, man, you look like a cyberpunk gunslinger from where I'm sitting. So, and maybe, the guns maybe being your blockchain platform and tech. But hey, I'm digging it. I like it.
Well, that was a great segue. I don't know if you were in my head, but the whole movement that since I've been into this in this industry, I guess actually let me come back. Originally, actually, my space, I'm in the deregulated energy market. So I came through the whole Texas deregulated energy market and worked for NRG, Reliant, and did a lot of direct marketing. But that is the way I got into the solar industry. So I have a huge movement that has made me turn and morph into kind of the modern solar punk per se. And if you actually go through the definitions and kind of a lot of the writings that you'll find, and there's a lot of good ones from 5-10 years ago. I think somebody was spying on me, man. No, it's all jokes aside.
You never know, especially in this
no,
day
it's
and age.
it's spot on to the way I envision how you morph technology into and weave it into the world. And the whole cyberpunk movement was having a optimistic look at the future, even through the realistic demise that you might be going through. And so essentially it's like it's not having like a bunch of skyscrapers and a bunch of flying cars. It's about having a bunch of like green looking solar panels weaved right into the forest, and a bunch of tech savvy buildings that are built into the ecosystem. So it's like weaving into the regrowth. And so it's kind of the definition of a organic optimist of the future per se.
Yeah, because often when it comes to the cyberpunk genre, it tends to be almost more dystopian. So, like, if you look at old movies like Blade Runner, The Fifth Element, a little bit, like Johnny Mnemonic, it tends to be a very, I love all those old movies. I love those movies, but it tends to be almost like a very negative and a dark setting in a lot of those, where kind of technology is almost kind of the enemy of mankind and of most people. So, I like your spin on that.
No, to your point, it's kind of like figuring out Bitcoin was the holy grail, and taking that all the way into the script writing, and not understanding that there was going to be layers to this. And so that's kind of the way I look at that. The whole futuristic, line of movies is sometimes they get stuck in one layer of the breakthrough of what the movement is. The flying cars and everything is around that whole engineering, and so sometimes they'll over-engineer the flying car part of the technology into that scene too much, and then forget about the ecosystem, stuff like that. So it's about balanced approach of things, I guess, per se. Fifth Element. Fifth Element is another really amazing movie that I love, and that's another depiction that kind of has a really doom gloom to it, and took one side of technology, far into the abyss. And so imagine mixing Fifth Element with Fortnite. That's where you got me. You know what I'm saying?
That is awesome. And by the way, if you could provide a little bit more context, can you tell everybody about your time and experience at Tesla? Because I would imagine that probably plays into your story, and a little bit about maybe your philosophy and motivation as far as your direction right now with NFTs and DeFi and decentralization.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, my relationship with Tesla started actually way back in 2012 when I read the manifesto that was written in 2006 by Tesla. And so, long story short, if a lot of people read the manifesto, everything that has happened with Tesla up until like 2018, even like 2019, 2020, was like by the book. Like it was almost like poetic in terms of how it was written. And so I might call it, you might think it was impossible, but if you understand how manifestation works in terms of entrepreneur spirits in business, you'd be like, okay, I can see this being realistic if you read that. So that's what really got me dived into it. And that's what made me also realize that, at that time, as adolescents, we were running around with Bitcoins, and, we're buying pizzas and trading not NFTs, trading cards with them, and buying online stuff. And some people have, Silk Road avenues to it. And, the whole black market movement to it. Anyways, long story short, it woke a lot of people up from that era that this whole industry of digitization was more than just again, I think in my opinion, cyberpunk movement, in a sense of just hackers being able to come in and out of Napster with all the songs that they can. That was never about it anymore. It was about being able to have digital ownership. It was about being able to own your data and being able to have digital autonomy per se. So So that
Yeah.
turned into me getting into the energy industry. Long story short, I moved out here to Texas. And when I got into the energy industry, it was Green Mountain Energy at the time that I found. And at that point, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be working for a solar company. I got tricked
Yeah.
into actually selling energy contracts. I never touched solar. I never learned about the basics.
I see.
I just and it was disappointing, but it was actually the best mistake ever because it introduced me to the whole deregulated energy market from the fundamental layer one portion of it, understanding
Yeah.
how the meter system works, how the ERCOT system works, how Encore works, what the relationship is between the retail energy providers and ERCOT, PUC. And that was more important than understanding azimuth and understanding different panel types, because that allows you to actually scale faster in different jurisdictions, than understanding the knowledge of solar. So it was the best mistake that happened, and that was what allowed me to end up working at Solar City. I was knocking doors with Green Mountain Energy. Somebody pulled up in a Tesla. Long story short, I got recruited to Solar City, and
Cool.
that journey started in 2000, I think 16ish, like end of 16 or something like that.
Good
And so
stuff.
that was that wasn't too long in terms of Solar City, because the Reeves brothers were actually an amazing, I think created an amazing culture for Solar City, and I think what actually resonated into what Tesla Energy is in today. But they ended up selling it off, and when that happened, really the human aspect of solar went away. It was never about scaling it with humanistic in mind, and that goes back to the politics, in my opinion. Automation and the fact that the middleman and the salespeople are not needed as much anymore, and that they can
Sure.
scale this through a lot of online mechanisms, really made me realize that this was the time to pivot. Really, that's what I really honed in. I'm like, okay, this is the time. And so that's when I was like, you know what? Since 2014, I've been allowing Google Photos to accumulate all my data. I realized that it was pretty much machine learning and AIing all my stuff for me. So I'm like,
Right.
shoot, I have my own little digital cloud here,
Yeah.
as they call it, a digital lake. So I came up through that whole process and kind of realized, I needed to pivot to a local company. So after a little bit at Tesla, ended up at Good Faith Energy. Long story short, it was the best pivot I've ever made. It was a young company. I was one of the first salesmen there. Created a really cool relationship there, and still to this day work alongside them. And is actually the reason I'm out here in Louisiana. But that's kind of my relationship with Tesla a little bit. Just a little bit.
Good stuff. And speaking of Texas, so as we all know, the world is changing, and I think traditionally, until recently, you could say the centers of tech were on the coast. So whether it was Palo Alto, Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and then you had New York largely, and then to a lesser extent Boston. Now the script and the landscape has changed. So the two names and the two epicenters, really, of blockchain, DeFi, and really you could say the direction of the metaverse, Miami and Austin. So Austin, Texas is now one of the major epicenters and hubs and portals for blockchain and DeFi innovation and technology. So if you could kind of explain to everybody what makes Texas so special in this space, and what edge does Texas have, let's say, than maybe the traditional centers of tech being, let's say, New York and Palo Alto, Silicon Valley.
I'm gonna put it in 2 words for you: energy independence.
All right.
One of the reasons why in 2017 I ended up getting when I started my LLC, I ended up looking at Energy Independence Group, and I was surprised it was still available. I was like, wow, and the reason why I chose that is because through working through the industry, I've realized that it was really an awesome place for the energy industry to have a robust competitive opportunity to create a whole different sets of data. Not data point, a whole different set of rate structures for different type of households. So it allowed the utilities to really have a playing field to create a whole ecosystem. And so that set up the playground, I think, for the tech center, because eventually I think we all knew where this went was, mining services being centralized and
Yeah.
decentralized. Long story short, they're gonna need power. They're gonna need the ability to be autonomous. And let's just say, one of the biggest pivots that I've ever seen in history, I think that was pretty interesting and amazing, was when China banned
Oh,
uh,
right.
crypto mining,
Yeah,
because
right.
I think we kind of understand what the implications were, but I was surprised, but I understand what happened there. It's open book. There's no secret. Like, this is how interesting it is. Either China was going to risk communism being lost
Right.
to decentralization, or
Very good point.
it's going to nip it in the bud at the detriment of having the ability to control one of the biggest opportunities in digital
Right.
value creation. And so
They were
they
producing like
they decided to shoot
68% of the
themselves.
world's like
Yep.
mined Bitcoin at the time. It's incredible.
Yep. And so I think that I mean, that's not the, those are the little catalysts of like a bunch of straws that broke the camel's back, in my opinion,
Right.
of Texas really being the epicenter of tech. We don't have no state tax. I mean, that obviously has a lot to do with it, and corporations really feeling the burden of over governance. And so
Right.
this is the place for you if you're a person that wants to create true value, and that you want to that you want to actually partake and keep your value also, and be able to autonomously and freely decide how to help society with it. And when you put good entrepreneurship alongside with independent thinkers, you have an ecosystem that actually flourishes. And I feel like the private sector, alongside good governance, like how Texas is governing alongside the U.S. I'm not barring anybody else. I'm just saying,
Sure.
we can't be out here in Texas and not repping it the right way.
That's right.
They've done a really
You're
great
there.
job of creating the industry, the instrument and vehicle to allow what's happening, and this is just, I think, the beginning.
Right. And I have to say, in adding to your point, expectations were more or less turned on its head. And I don't know if this is more of a local thing or not, but up here, a lot of people were expecting, okay, New York City, Manhattan is going to be the epicenter for blockchain and cryptocurrency technology. So that did not pan out. So, adding to your point, people did not see, let's say, Austin and then Miami essentially being the names of really the pioneering cities and ecosystems driving this. So
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'll even go drive back to you to explain what happened to opportunities like Celsius and all those places that got hacked up by New York out there. But to your
yeah,
point about flaming opportunities, I remember when I went to I hiked by the North Shore. There's a really cool opportunity that I had where I was able to have a 21-day retreat, and I'll go more into that later
sure.
on in my life in general. But it was a cool place because it was a place for us to be able to pretty much be on the Canadian border, and we hiked for 21 days, and we pretty much had GPS dropped food alongside our path, and we did like 3 weeks in like 80 miles, and it was an amazing experience.
Now,
But
you said GPS drop. So, like, was your food coming in like an
yeah,
airdrop, like
yeah.
a
So
metal,
by the way,
like a solid or something like that?
well, no, look, when I get excited sometimes, man, I just get straight to checkpoint mode. I'm into gaming a lot, so I'm straight to the points. But
Got it.
essentially what happened was, through the hiking, we were never going to go back to society. We stayed in the woods, like no showering, no nothing. You're into the woods, and
Wow.
then it's like isolation for the 3 days, for the last 3 days. It was just an experience. It was kind of an opportunity for us to be able to kind of find yourself in general, right?
Yeah.
But through that experience, we were able to really create an opportunity to find ourselves and be able to show that we had the ability to create free will and free thinking, and choose our ability to kind of carve our path. And I feel like I'm actually going to go back and have some projects that entail putting some solar out there, and as a way to give back to that entity. But the long story short, it's innovation that was not choked out, and that innovation to me, when we were out there was was the flame that they were able to fan. So, you know, when we're out in the middle of nowhere, you have to use birch trees. And I don't think there's a lot of birch trees out here, but in the north, there's a lot of birch, and birch is an amazing igniter. And so essentially, you know, I see Texas has birch to a lot of good opportunities, because while you're about to create your fire for the night, you can have somebody messing with your little flame that you're trying to put together, your little starter flame and fire. It's very important. And so and the really good people that understand it, it's so important. I think there's people that even can keep a smoldering flame inside it, and an encompassing enclosure, and have it and throughout their journey. I mean, there's experts that for ages in places that are so damp that they need to have it. I bring that up to say that there's places that either allow you to create the ignition you need and sustain that ignition until you create your fire, so that you can be resilient when the rain comes, or there's places that end up, you know, shitting on your party too early, let's just say. And so I think Texas is just having that opportunity, and it's creating a really good place for it. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of states are, and I think I'm not going to be maximalistic about it. I'm just trying to rep what we have going on out here. But I think we're starting to see the right track. But we'll see what's going on in the upcoming election time to see what's happening with the conversation per se. But hopefully it's going to be driving towards understanding that this is an opportunity we need to grasp now.
Right. And how do you think solar energy, solar panels, and blockchain technology, how do you think that both of these spaces can kind of synergize each other in this day and age?
Well, I always start with anecdotal stuff and stories.
By all means, please.
It helps me minimize my mumbling and my little my little ADD moments that I like to have. And I say that in a good way.
Listen, no worries at all. And in fact, you know, some of those musings are actually helpful. I think they actually explain and kind of provide like
if you rewind back and slow it down, you're gonna have a lot of gems. I agree with you.
Listen, I do the same thing. So like when I'm about to get out of point 2, you know, I kind of just end up like blurting out kind of you could almost say like the background noise of, you know, kind of leading up to the main point. So
yeah, I agree with you. I think the bang doesn't help the situation, but shout out to Bang, I guess. You know,
it is good energy drink. Yeah,
if they're sustainable, we'll see if they can get sponsored. Only if they're sustainable, though.
Yeah, I remember when they first came out, they had the lemon drop flavored, and they had a champagne flavored one. This was like 2013, 2014, and they were everywhere. I'm not gonna lie.
Their marketing their Instagram. We'll get into that more, but if you go into their Instagram marketing strategy, I'm really into diving deep into the psychology of things, and their marketing strategy. I mean, I don't have to tell you, it just worked really well. It's just an amazing thing, you know, and it's been copied numerous times.
But yes, to your point about, you know, solar panels and blockchain synergizing each other.
Yeah. So the main reason why it is. So the anecdote. So Michael Saylor, I think I don't know if you know. Okay, so he's one of the first, Fortune 500, whatever you want to call him, one of the main important people in the U.S. that has a lot of money in business to pretty much shift a considerably high amount of the value in his company and risk it for a little bit of a brisket.
He wasn't half-assing it. He really went in hard. It. Yeah.
So because he did it at the optimum time, but this is not what it is, man. He did something very important, and he did it because he knew what he was doing, in my opinion. And I have I have my Apple Watch a lot of times, pretty much giving me notifications. So what happens is, I like to engineer my social media outlets. So if I have something interesting, my news feed, everything is what I want to see, not what somebody else wants me to see. So Michael Saylor, and a lot of other people that I respect are on my feed a lot. And one of the feeds that came up was one of his tweets, and it said, Bitcoin is digital energy. If you understand that, you have an advantage. So until everybody understands that, you have an advantage. And I think the wording, it was a lot more poetic, but I think you get the concept. But the reason why he's saying that is, in the holy grail of things, in the long run, store of value is Bitcoin. So if you read the Satoshi white papers, Satoshi Nakamoto is one of the people that pretty much, we should all know, right?
Right.
If you don't, that's another story.
And
but
there's
essentially,
also a
on
lot
the
of
white.
theories about the true identity of Satoshi.
Oh no, dude,
Nakamoto
we can
too.
go. Let's
Yeah, that's
we
a
can
separate
go
rabbit
into
hole
all
right
that.
there. Yeah.
But essentially, that message in the white paper essentially entailed being able to create store of value, and then Ethereum proved being able to store complex contract agreements. So you have store value and contracts to be able to digitize, and then you have a lot of these other layers like Cardano coming on as actual other layers like interoperability and being able to do scale things. So they're pretty much sandwiching into the ability to drive value in the most optimum way. And a lot of times the most optimum way to drive value across different chains is energy contracts and energy agreements in a sense. So people in the solar and energy industry, I think, have long been training for cryptocurrency technology to mature this whole time. They just didn't know it. And that's the way I'd like to explain it. And I think I'm going to leave the rest of the exploring as the opportunity, because I think one of the most important things for mankind is to not take away the opportunity for you to discover and have free will to understand how much of opportunity we have here. So I'm not going to give up too much of of how much interesting this can get, because I think blockchain is an interesting thing if you get into the journey of it and not just by somebody telling you to buy something or to sell something. So I stay away from Forex style conversations because of that. But I will say Bitcoin is the closest. I mean, cryptocurrency in general is the closest to energy, and the journey to understanding this will allow you to kind of unlock that. And if you don't understand this now, there's people that do understand this, and we understand it so much we have time to twist our hairs out here.
Oh yeah, right.
We've twisted a lot of hairs. We've thought about it.
Digging the hair too, by the
way. we got it. We had to plug the dreads in right on that one.
Yeah.
That's my journey too. That.
Got it. And you know what's interesting, and this might just be musings on my part, but let's say Texas, being one of the major blockchain innovators and centers of the US, plus if you add in solar panels, given the business and tax-friendly environment of Texas, and also given the climate, and I think for the most part, Texas is relatively flat compared to a lot of states as well. It almost strategically seems like this is a really good place to have really sustainable, clean energy, and having that power, what is essentially going to be the magic bullet for a lot of problems, now and in the future with blockchain
I agree.
and cryptocurrency technology.
I agree.
Solving that.
I completely agree with you. I think it is going to be the most important place. But to kind of expand onto your point, important happening somewhere. The holy epicenter, and I like to look at it as like the Mecca of places. So a lot of times when there's a holy place, people tend to fight about it, and we see that in religion a lot.
Right.
And so the reason why we see that is because we don't want it to just think about it as being the only place. It is the expansion of the decentralization of the ideas, of the mechanisms, of the tooling, all across, so that the whole point is to decentrality for you to create these networks, because if you don't, you're still vulnerable to the future we're going into. So why I say that, you can have a fruitful outcome to your business without monopolizing opportunities. Right. And if you understand how to use open source to your advantage and leverage things like social media to your advantage, you'll understand that community, the social business, as they say, or the community business is a thriving thing that brings a lot of value to shareholders, and that is really what we're seeing accumulating and going into these layer one chains, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And by the way, that's a very great example you use. Someone, especially for somebody who's a history nerd, and I especially love medieval history. That is a very good
Oh
way
man, dude, I love
conceptualizing it.
medieval history.
Yeah, so that's actually like if you think of the, I guess if you think of the original schism between, I guess, in the Catholic Church in the Dark Ages, then essentially you had, Rome, and you had like the Byzantine Empire,
Correct.
representing East and West respectively, and then yeah, you absolutely kind of get a situation like that.
Yeah, no, Assassin's Creed, Civilization, all these
Assassin's Creed.
games.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh man, it's like, I think that what I envision, for example, shameless plugging and shilling my future projects like Solarpunk NFTs is to be able to have like an Assassin's Creed, Civilization style open worlds with the craziness of GTA and Taxi from
Speak my
Dreamcast.
language here. I love.
You remember
those
Taxi
games.
from Dreamcast, though?
I remember Taxi.
That's the cherry on top. Yeah,
that's like 25 years ago. Yeah, I remember.
That's
that
how
game.
you really.
Yeah.
That's how you really put a little aesthetic, and that's how you put a little bit of a hipster on it with, but not too much. You
Right. Hey, but listen. You make this. Sign me up. I love Assassin's Creed. Vice City is probably one of my favorite games ever, and this idea is incredible. So.
Well, if everything works. Listen, if everything works out and we keep seeing each other on our journeys, this is, as I say, this is an ordained journey for me in terms of it just happens. It's just part of the natural cycle. It's like, either the community is a million stronger or 50 million strong. I have no clue. I have no control over that. But that's not for me to say. But the journey is going to be there. So, you will be able to see it and participate in it.
Good stuff. Well, I'll be heading to the Lone Star State later this year, so I will keep you posted well in advance.
Yeehaw!
Awesome. So, MeTaFurKitty, you're running this on a proof-of-stake Cardano blockchain platform. So, could you explain to people what Cardano is and why Cardano is probably, if not the best, you could say, platform and tool to use for what you're doing?
Yeah. So for the most part, Cardano we see as one of the first very utility heavy NFTs on the Cardano space, and it is really utilizing the proof of stake ability of it, because the whole journey is to be able to create staking nodes that allow the different sanctuaries, welfare sanctuaries, cat sanctuaries that we're going to be working with to allow them to create their own little per se, donation nodes, right? So our roadmap, starts with the first series of MeTaFurKitties that were kind of envisioned through the original, I think, conversation we had. And I don't know if that was before the live or after the live. Did I kind of give you the origin of it?
Yeah, you touched on it a little bit, but listen, feel free to expand and
elaborate
and whatever else you feel is appropriate.
Oh yeah, so the original founders are actually Greg Nuss and Rachel Lambeth, and we partnered together to come up with the whole concept to really get it robust on the Cardano network. But me and Greg actually met in Fund 6 of Cardano in the Idea Scale community. All right, so essentially, this is the birth of a Web3 movement. So Idea Scale is pretty much the Web3 community that runs the governance, opportunities for Cardano. And so, there's no permission for you to be on there. There's a trustless permissionless opportunity, but eventually the time that you put into that opportunity tends to yield the amount of rewards that you get. Essentially, how much voice you have in the community, how much tokens you might be able to be dropped as a way to create bounty. So people tend to forget that the forex strategy of building your wealth or your bag per se is actually not the way to do it nowadays. It is being able to putting your time in the actual utility, go out there, find if you don't have coding ability, finding an opportunity to learn what you like to do, and then finding where that is being worked on by somebody else, and then putting your 2 cents in it until you realize that there's a lot more cents than you can put in than 2. And then eventually that turns into people having to give value back to all those cents you put in. And so, and what happens is eventually one of those IPOs will eventually, make wave. But long story short, I found one of his Fund 6 projects that were similar to an idea that I was having, which was being able to use NFTs and metadata as a way to be able to create, solar projects. And what, the idea is to be able to fund the solar project with essentially, a note, an NFT note, and that could be created a million different ways, but be able to have, smart contracts built into it. And actually now we've gotten to the point where we're going to have it self-funding through staking and self-staking and investing opportunities. Where when you buy this, when you get into a solar opportunity, you'll automatically have it self-stake and take those rewards to pay off the principal of the loans in general.
Right.
And so that opportunity was something that he already worked on extensively. So what happens in the traditional age is like, oh my God, he has my idea, I have your idea. Oh my God, where, somebody's going to take away opportunity. No, what we do is we figure out where you are, and then we try to feed as much collaboration possible to move our idea forward together to the next stage. Because if he has more things that I have, then that means that it's more important for the greater good than for my selfish ability to just have a business that I called my idea. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
sure.
that really is what I think Web3 is, and that's where we started this conversation. And so that's where MeTaFurKitties kind of came about. And what does this have to do with MeTaFurKitty NFT? It is a vehicle to learn, to understand the blockchain communities and create relationships so that you can create actual utilities and use cases. It is not just your ability to create the most shiny object that is a JPEG,
right,
to sell it for $100,000, which I will gladly do anyways if I could.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, you get my point.
Right.
There's a time and a place for it. And so
right. And since Cardano does use a proof of stake consensus algorithm, let's talk about at least quickly staking versus mining, because I think a lot of times when people from the outside or people who are not either in the space or have interests that are probably going to be affected by this space, a lot of times people will bring up how energy intensive and how much, I guess you could say, how energy consumptive blockchain processes are, especially when it comes to mining. And
Gotcha.
I think the growing sentiment is that staking seems in many ways to be a much better alternative, and many projects actually use a proof of stake consensus algorithm. Could you talk a little bit about that and why staking is good, and what makes it very, you could say, energy efficient, and what makes it just more appealing, generally speaking?
No, you put it, you started the intro pretty well. So a lot of people ask it the way you do. What is the difference between mining and proof of stake? But essentially, mining is the ability to collect data per se, right? You're mining data. So
Right.
so a lot of people have the physical ability to mine as the ability. So essentially, you have the basic way to mine electricity. Sorry, I apologize. Mine blockchain. So in Bitcoin, you have the ability for you to be able to mine hashing rates, and those hash rates allow you to be able to earn certain rewards for you approving the transaction and verifying and essentially securing the network. And that is that is proof of work. So you have to show your work that you did to allow the reward to unlock. And this is all through protocols, and this is written into smart contracts, right? And so what happens is the ability for somebody to verify that they did that work is getting harder, because the value is getting higher, right? The reason why it's getting higher is because people are spending more money to verify the same transactions, to be honest with you, or more. It doesn't really matter. But what matters is the more the network grows, even at a non-exponential level, the more energy intensive it is, because let's go back to it. Bitcoin is digital energy. Whatever you burnt to create that coin can be and should be and will be traced all the way back to the source of how you did it. And so that is proof of work. That's proof of work. But right now it's just being used to show the hash rates. But what's happened was when smart contracts and came into the play, you really dive deep into what actually proof of work is. And proof of work is really showing that it is very energy intensive because you're going to need bigger data centers, bigger operations, more energy to have to mine it. And so when displacements like Kazakhstan's displacements happen out there, it wasn't because of political turmoil that has anything to do with some crazy shit that's going on out there. It's because the government was shutting down a lot of mining centers.
Right.
Because they blamed it for intense energy use. And they might be correct in a way, but they're really incorrect because in the long run, the journey that has been pretty much ordained into the smart contracts from Satoshi Nakamoto all the way to all these white papers that you see out here is the ability to make it more green friendly or make it more sustainable. So proof of work is the birth of being able to allow you to mine your data remotely through cloud opportunities, thus decentralizing the data centers and be able to get into the next generation. So to simplify it, you have proof of work, which means you have to prove your work, which means you have to have actual proof physically, or you can have proof of stake, which is you have to prove that you have staked into the work. So you can do that now remotely. And so that is why it's more sustainable, because not everybody needs physical burning energy to prove it. They can aggregate it through the scaling of cloud mining, cloud networks.
Sure. And by the way, I have to add this, and for any viewers listening right now, if you're taking any certification related to blockchain and cryptocurrency, please listen to Ft.Eyob Irko's explanation of mining versus staking right now. I'll have to perhaps call you Professor Irko next time around. I think that was a very, very solid explanation.
And by the way, I appreciate and love all certifications. I think they're important, but let me be a testament that you don't need certification. What you need is the ability to have the passion enough into what you want to do to dive deep into what you're about to use so that you understand the technology you're wielding and the power that you have or not have. And so I appreciate the compliment, but what I'm saying is everybody has the opportunity to do exactly what I'm doing.
Sure. Awesome. Moving back to the MeTaFurKitty NFT project. So one of the questions I got actually a moment ago was, why cats? Why have a collection dedicated to, I guess you could say, resolving, or you could say, assisting with stray cats? Now, I did some research leading up to this episode. So apparently there are as many as 58 million stray cats in the United States at the moment. At various times, it could be as high as 75 million. So, I don't think this is something that necessarily a lot of people are very, very aware of, to say the very least.
No, not. I think, I'm going to geek out on you on this because it is a lot about that. It is everything about what you said, but I'm going to take it a little bit deeper. Obviously, I'm really into, into Black Panther and the whole comic movement. And so let me explain something about the whole, cats and the cougars. And I even have my little,
nice.
my little cat. And maybe this might be, one of the NFTs that's going to morph into, we never know. I don't know what I just said. Oops. But the cat is, I think, one of the most sustainable animals.
Interesting.
And I think that is a representation for me because it is a very, all right, if you have a cat or a dog at home, which one needs you more?
Naturally, the dog will.
That dog is energy intensive. That dog is proof of work, and the cat is proof of stake. All right, let's just put it that way.
Wow.
That's it. And so I think that it is the best explanation for the transition into the nimbleness that you have to have is the cat in the wild is it doesn't have to be the Lone Star Ranger, but the tiger, the lion. It's the whole. No matter if it's a lone tiger or a pack, it has a lot to do with the sustainability of how the pack hunts, how the tiger hunts, how the feline is even in the streets,
Right.
how they are able to hunt. They're so sustainable. They create the populations that end up becoming an issue in the first place. They are very sustainable, but I think they're so sustainable. I think a lot of times well, this is my opinion too, but stray cat populations are more sustainably ingrained into modern society than dog stray populations.
I can see that. Yeah.
I mean, let's just think about it, because as Black Panther, I can probably have 9 lives and like skip and jump out of the car. The dog is probably going to get hit trying to find food because
Right.
it's very needy. So I say that as a joke to say that the cat is a very sustainable symbol, and I think it fits very well to how Cardano is as a community in general. Is we flip right out of the car way.
Well, I gotta say, I definitely appreciate it. I find it actually really illuminating comparing proof of work to dogs, proof of stake to cats. It's actually a very good way of putting it.
By the way, I can just came up with that on the spot, so we just
that's
coined
perfect.
that together.
Absolutely. That was awesome.
Copy, as they say, as this one rapper said, copy that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I guess when it comes to dogs, I think whether you're looking at the beginning of like socialized wolves in like prehistoric times, and then you have dogs. For the most part, in many ways, canines are always either surrounded by or they're part of a human's ecosystem. And I read a paper a long time ago, but cats, house cats, or what is, I guess you could say, the modern evolution of a cat. It's been like I guess you could say half socialized and half not. So there was one of the theories is that cats can't or never were truly, you could say, domesticated, even though they're considered domesticated in of themselves, so to say. High intelligence, but trainability for the most part, it's very, very damn hard. And I think if you look at a lot of cat species like tigers, they hunt solo, they exist solo. For instance, many cat species do, I think, probably except lions. But there is a lot of the proof is in the pudding, as they say.
It is. I think the whole point of resiliency is to make sure that the individual stake is as strong as the community itself.
Yeah.
And so if you don't empower each person just as much as you're empowering the organization, you're not really empowering. So I think that is a symbol. For example, I think religious entities have had the opportunity to use a vehicle of empowering the community, but sometimes it is not in the most sustainable way. And I'm not just picking on religion, and I'm not.
No,
I'm very interoperable. Like I said, we're very futuristic and very open. My business partner is on Ramadan right now. I'm on intermittent fasting. I grew up in a Lutheran church, so we're very open to a lot of things. But it is a way and a vehicle to show that you can open up opportunities of empowerment all the way down to the individual cell, nuclei, whatever you want to call it. And that's, you're just as strong as your weakest link, And so I think decentralization is about, owning your own data, owning your own wallet, owning your own, it's about all that. And so I think Cardano has been a good vehicle. Now, I'm not a maximalist, and I have been and will be with Cardano for a lot of my projects and opportunities, but it's also understanding empowerment means understanding that you can bridge with an EVM and bridge. If you want to have the coldest 3D looking thing in the world and it only works on Solano, EVM that sucker through. I'm gonna go ahead and I think shout out. Is it Milk Dramada? And people at DC Spark, they're creating amazing EVM opportunities so that people are not shilling and being maximalist and digging themselves into this the only place to do it, and not realizing that you can have your cake and eat it too if you just respect the other project and just use the other project's strength to your weakness. and bridge whatever protocol that you can't do over there, and then keep just secure the network that way. And so
Right.
it's just an opportunity to empower people to the point where they can talk like me, where I can be very simple or get very well engineerly technical, because I was empowered by a lot of people. This comes from a lot of mentors that I've had. People like Alejandro Laplana, people like Muhammad Abdullah, people like Greg Nuss, a lot of people that I've worked in this industry with right now that have given me the ability to kind of rein in a lot of opportunities through free thinking and ability to kind of experiment with a lot of different opportunities. So that's empowerment to the individual level.
Very well said. And I like the example that you use. I think being as strong as your weakest link, and I think the only way to determine what a weakest link is, whether it's in people, organizations, religion, various bureaucracies or entities, is really by talking, criticizing, reflecting, and then really figuring out a solution.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first step. You have to be able to speak it.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Talk about it. Absolutely. So that's very well said earlier. So if somebody wants to start building their MeTaFurKitty collection, for example, what wallets can they use?
So, for the most part, on the there's a way for you to be able to download multiple wallets, and obviously there's the whole ecosystem that you have. But we try to simplify a lot of this conversation, and I'll share. Obviously we have some links. I'm pretty sure that I've shared with you, but I'll share some links in the comments right here that will be in the comment section. But it's where Yoroi wallet has been a great place. But there is a way for you, there's actual explainers that we have ready and will be actually put into the actual minting process. If you want to do CC Vault wallets, Yoroi wallet, Nami wallet, and I think there's another wallet that I'm interested in, and I want to plug them because they're really awesome. Because I keep track of these wallets, but the most part is we have all the basic ones. All the instructions are going to be on there. I'm just saying there's going to be an easy way for you to be able to do this. And even if you don't understand this, we'll have an opportunity to explain how you can get your basic Coinbase and be able to bridge your stuff correctly and kind of walk you through the process. And I did a lot of PDF writing and have a group called Cryptonomics on Facebook, and so I've kind of started using that community back up again as a way for me to do like Zendex support style stuff for anybody that wants to come and get actual support and conversations and kind of take the conversation somewhere else. It doesn't really matter. But for the most part, Yoroi wallet is going to be a really good opportunity. We already have that all the way set up on the page. In my opinion, if you're a little bit more tech savvy, CC Vault is probably the way you want to go. And there's, we can talk about it on Twitter. Come debate me about that if you want. You know what I'm saying? Nami wallet I like because of the fact that you're able to show off your NFT collection, on your wallet pretty well, and it's a little bit more UI. There's a pro and con to a lot of it, man. There's no maximalistic to this stuff. Right. But simply put, we have instructions to be able to secure your wallet correctly and be able to buy your crypto kitties and put them into your own secure wallet wherever that may be.
Got it. Good stuff. And I have a Yoroi wallet, and I have a few other wallets as well. Yoroi it's decent. I got to say, it's very straightforward. It's very linear. So as far as like navigating and getting started, that's probably one of the better options, I would have to say.
It is. That's why we actually started with it as our intro. But to the point of what I'm talking about, I'm heavy into the debates a lot of times in the spaces and all that. Or I listen in. I mean, I'm very open, and I'm inside the communities. I don't have my opinions from TikTok people that like to shill their coin of the day. I like to talk to the development team that is probably on their 7th bang, trying to figure out when to take testnet
it is
to
a good energy drink, in all fairness, so can't blame them.
I'm just saying, like, you get my point, right? Like, it's damn near as close as you can get to the heart of community. So you can't do that for all the community. So it's a sign of being able to hone in on the one that you really are going to be interested in. So from that point of view, I'm going to say that being a maximalist is not the way to look at a lot of this stuff. but they do have plenty of opportunities to learn how Yoroi is the simplest way. But sometimes Yoroi, the debate is that, you know, it gets a little boggled down. And I think they already patched it already. But essentially, whenever there's big opportunities and accumulation times where network traffic gets a little busy, there are wait times that are not the best times. And so what actually that reveals is the third-party programs, and I'm not going to name names in my opinion, because this is not a way to bring down any other project. This is a way to say that every place has the opportunity to do it the right way. But a lot of times when you have an opinion about the scalability, it's not about Cardano a lot of times or about Bitcoin, or it's about the third party, the second layer, or new opportunity that's being governed, developed by somebody that did not do the initial governance stage. So the reason why I bring that up is like the UTXO model has been debated as being too slow for Cardano, not understanding that there's a longer game to this opportunity. And if you understand that, you know, Plutus is and a lot of the Cardano community, IOHK, has the most verifiable communities, and I mean, I'm not going to say the most verifiable, the most the most peer-reviewed code out there. And I'm not saying that code needs to be peer-reviewed. I just mean there's a lot of time that has been changed for energy in this space. Right. So if you believe in the energy being crypto, or the energy time value energy trains into there, I've seen a lot of really intellectual people put their time and trust in the knowledge that has been put in this code. And so, long story short, there's a lot of ways to do a lot of this stuff. But right now, I think the best way to do it is Yoroi wallets and Nami wallets, CC vaults, or whatever you're comfortable with. And so I think our Cardano community will appreciate the interoperability of my recommendation, because a lot of times people are like, just give me the simple one. I'm like, I'll be lying to you if I told you it's just the simple one. But that's also the sign of an actual NFT project that is on its way to a utility case. We're not here to shield the opportunity of, like, you know, buy. And I think, you know, you should buy. But I think you should learn a lot more.
Yeah.
And so I think you just learn with us, is what I'm saying.
Well said. And, you know, when putting this together, you know, figuring out, you know, what platform to stick with, you know, I would imagine, whether this is just through research or even just through, you know, conversations with other people, I'm sure maybe it's come across your way. Why not just use Ethereum? And by the way, so this question is really not as a criticism of Ethereum, and maybe just some sort of constructive feedback. Why, let's say, ultimately opt for something that was non-Ethereum when, you know, creating this project? Because it seems to me, even now, and by the way, Ethereum is great, but many will tend to stick with, or at least start with, Ethereum as far as, you know, building an NFT collection and doing everything and anything else in between.
You know, I'll explain it from my point of view, and I think that, you know, sometimes I might be able to speak for a lot of the community in the Cardano community sometimes, or a lot of cryptocurrency community,
yeah,
or a lot of the entrepreneurship community. But for me, the conversation of scalability gets a little too toxic when you're trying to create communities that actually care about utility, right?
Right.
So, long story short, I'm going to be blunt with you. People
like
me and Greg, and, you know, a lot of people that are involved, we actually have utility we have real life utility. Like right now, I'm on the way to a solar and a storage opportunity that has been pre-booked. And I'm going to be doing a site survey. I'm going to do a virtual opportunity with them. I'm going to be in the attic taking pictures. I actually have a real work. Like, I'm still working. Like, I'm not eating off my bathing ape or my ape coin right now. Right. I'm not shilling to eat. And remember, this is not a down for any of that, because if it satisfied me to be this way, I would do it. But it just doesn't give me the satisfaction. So for me, use cases satisfy me. I didn't, my parents didn't immigrate all the way here for that, for that JPEG.
Right. Exactly.
But
Awesome.
long story short, a lot of people in this community, including Greg, resonate with the way I like to work, which is just you start with the utility in mind. You write out your dream first, and you just like put it into reality. Like there's just no F-ins. There's no F-ins or F-in. Damn. Yeah. Wordplay gone off. I think we're like losing a little bit of the bars because I'm in the middle of nowhere here.
No, you're looking fine right now.
No, I was just trying to excuse my my stutter right there for a second. The bars fell off, so I missed the word.
No, don't worry. Yeah, don't worry.
So,
and by the way, like, if you feel it will get the point across, listen, if you want to, swing the sledgehammer, listen, speak freely.
Oh, no, man, dude, listen to me. Seriously. I joke around all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a person that's on live. Like, this is our realm. Like, in my opinion, if you're a Fortune 500 person looking at this, or for somebody that's coming from that community, welcome to the new world. We've been doing this since 2006. My Facebook page is open since 2006, and so I say that to say that we're authentic and we're open. Everybody's welcome to the way they learn, and the way you learn is more important than the rigid way to learn.
I agree. Well said. So when it comes to NFTs, for people who are still very wary, very cautious, and I would say even cynical, how would you explain what an NFT is? Listen, you're quite a wordsmith, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing how you'll, articulate and conceptualize this. But how would you explain that? Because I would even imagine, like right now, it is very hard to get most people interested or at least comfortable with this space. Blockchain, NFTs, metaverse. Most people still have this kind of, this great degree of caution when either talking or about even exploring the possibility of starting.
Gotcha. So simply put, an NFT or a non-fungible token is an ability for you to put a fingerprint digitally on a digital item of some sort, so that you can itemize and differentiate it in almost in an infinite manner. Meaning that if and the reason why I picked the word fingerprint is fingerprint is unique to everybody. There's no two fingerprints alike, and even twins tend to have even I think some different ridges a little bit. I'm not really sure about that part. Do not try to in the comment section. Do not try to scope check me, man.
Right. The point was made. Though.
Point being,
yeah.
Point being, it's a fingerprint, and it's a way for you to fingerprint it. So, long story short, it is the sustainable way for me to go to the digital, state representative, wherever I go to file my copyright, and file a patent or a copyright patent in a sense, and say, this is my idea. This is my painting. And a lot of times, artists, when you create something new, when you write it, there's common copyright rules and common copyright clause, and common, there's a lot of things that protect it as the reason of you creating it. The ability for you to create a patent is just you creating that something unique. So this is just for you to put your fingerprint on it, or your name on it, or your signature. So an NFT is just a signature per se. But the cool part is an NFT is a digital signature. It's a metadata signature on the blockchain. And so that opens up infinite ability for you to create signatures for infinite things.
Yeah.
And so now I can NFT anything.
Right.
So I can NFT anything means the world is open for me to NFT. So people get lost. But what should I NFT was the second thing that happens. And so for the people that go to that stage, instead of get crazy, the next thing you're going to NFT are things that already have value to begin with, because that is how you test it first. So if I can go ahead and test what I already have, like if I go, for example, like if I go to another country and I can test my dollar worked, and I'm like, shit, oh damn, they just accepted my fucking currency. I'm going to be a little bit more comfortable, not having to do exchange rates, right?
Right.
Well, the equivalent to that, if I'm able to realize that I don't have to exchange, the ability for me to realize it, then I don't have to worry about any of that. So for me, I want to put it in a simple way, it is the ability for you to realize what's important for you to create a fingerprint on. So artists are going to be the first people that are probably going to have the epiphany. So that's why you're seeing art being the first one to take advantage of it. So you have Beeble that took the record for 68 million. I think the second record got took by a 19-year-old not too long ago for 25 million. And then 30, there are records that are being met, but that are artists realizing that they're able to have their copyright infringement all built in, all self-executing, and if depending on which vehicle of cryptocurrency you use, and that's where it gets smart, you can have your fingerprint a lot more smarter. So if there's not one more, just like there's not one kind of cryptocurrency, there's not one kind of an NFT. And so why did we put it on Cardano network? Because a lot of us, including me, Greg, and Rachel, and other people, we're actually from the energy industry. I actually own a solar and energy industry agency along with partners of mine, and we're really into the solar industry. So we actually have one of the biggest utility and use cases to allow crypto to really have its last leg as the maturity happens. So it only makes sense to be in the most secure network that we feel to be, which is the Cardano ecosystem. And we'll stay here until we've secured everything else around it, because at the end of the day, the fundamentals and the layer ones have been built really robustly. And the ability for us to figure that out is more important than to run around and create holes everywhere.
Right.
And fork everywhere, per se.
Right.
Now, with that being said, this is the ability to also understand places like DC Spark, and I'm gonna shout them out to say they create things like I think Milkdromeda, and we're gonna start testing a lot of the EVMs that have been launched out there. And I keep saying these words to not pick any other work, because that is the Twitter space I was in. That is this Twitter space where I talk to this dev team. Right. So I don't like to talk about things that I don't have experience with, or that I have stamped my name into, or I'm willing to die for all the way. And so I shill with honor. You know what I'm saying?
Shill with honor. That's right. Briggs, that's right. That I think that is certainly what's needed a bit more in
I'm gonna coin shill with honor. Here, let me go put an NFT on it real quick.
Honor. Yeah, I know, right? So based on your explanation, it would be fair to say, if you're an NFT creator, you can essentially be your own copyright and patent office, where essentially whatever work you make, you can essentially, you could say, authenticate it and make it a genuine, you could say, creation, which has like a real genuine, article of proof. Whereas, I guess going to a patent office that requires a third party, and that could take a very long time. I guess in NFTs, you could say you can kind of be your own artist and patent office for your own work.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. So, but there's a caveat to that. Oh, by the way, 100%. I'm gonna say every single thing you said stands true, and nothing I can say will refute that. But I can add on to the complexity of it, and say that, if you are going to think that you're going to have the ability to have 10 lawyers with a copyright infringement right behind you, equivalent to the way you can NFT now, you'd be mistaken, because we're at the infancy stage.
Right.
A lot of times right now, we are checking the viability while creating the economy. That is how this system works. And that is just what I've learned. And I joke around to say this whole blockchain space was a ploy to trick us into learning how to code. Because
I like that.
And I think we talked about it a little bit.
That's actually the first time I've ever done coding was actually in the blockchain space, actually. So you're actually,
first time
you're right,
I finally listened. So I was coding in 9th grade, took my C++, but I understand it, but I'm not a coder, so I never will disrespect anybody, but I understand the different ITs and different departments. I'm not gonna go ask the back end development department that likes to stay on the command lines to give me another password. That is a slap in the face. We know that because they run command lines. Like they might erase me. They might be like, dude, delete your ass out of my way. That's not what I do for this department. It's to say that I understood the ecosystem. I understood the cadence. I understood the hierarchy of how coding works. And once you understand that, it's actually a lot more valuable than getting too caught up in learning how to code, because getting too caught up in learning how to code, in my opinion, is getting too caught up in being a Bitcoin maximalist.
Interesting.
Or Ethereum maximalist. It is understanding, respecting, and utilizing, and then growing by adding on and moving and repurposing and retooling. And really, if you dive deep into this debate, and I'm a proud person to say I am from the old school. We forgot our Bitcoins on hard drives all over the place. I had like 10, 12 Bitcoins in hard drives. I don't even know where they are anymore, because we were in it in 2009, 11, 12.
Right.
So we're the crypto punks per se of this industry, because we don't really care about how it was used, because we used it for what we wanted to,
right?
Not for our own purpose, agenda, and twisted it into what it's not supposed to be. And so what I'm saying is that essence still needs to be true to it, and it has. And if you dive deep into the forums that Satoshi was, if you read the white paper, if you read the white paper of Vitalik Buterin, and if you actually read the white paper of Charles Hoskinson, and if you understand the movement of what Algorand is doing, if you understand the movement of what Solana is doing, if you understand why Grayscale has moved around their holding, and they don't even have Bitcoin and Ethereum in their top 5, as Dave Chappelle says, if you ask Grayscale what's their top 5, and it's not Dylon. By the way, that's a joke, and if somebody understands it, high five.
Good reference, by the way. The Dave Chappelle skit of the real world. For anybody who's bored, go on YouTube and look at that. Look at that skit.
Please go understand why Dave Chappelle and the whole skit about Dylon.
Right.
It has a lot to do with the bad boy. He did pretty much a skit of the bad boy group that Puffy was bringing up, and long story short, Puffy was an asshole, and all of them were just very eccentric characters, and one of them was like a Jamaican rapper.
Yeah, they can do stupid shit all the time. Yeah, and then how many of them actually even became famous? Well,
a lot of them kind of spurted off because remember, let me actually it points to why I said this.
Yeah,
they asked this guy, who's your favorite rapper, and he said Dylon. So that's why it's not in my.
Right. Yeah.
Understand your top 5s, and respect them.
I'm gonna go watch that again later now.
Wow, but yeah, so no, I'm going to say that I, as much as I will shill all the way, I've ran my battery from 70% on a brand new almost iPhone 13 Max to 10%, which means we've utilized a really new battery.
Yeah.
All the way down to below it's 20%. I loved this conversation. I appreciate it, but I'm gonna give you probably a 20-minute warning before we'll spread her out with no battery.
Got it.
Because I'm remote, so.
Got it. Well, I do have just one more question then. Actually, I think this.
Keep talking if you have 20. Yeah. I mean, let's wrap up like in a 20-minute rundown.
Okay. Sure. So, for somebody who's been in the space quite early, you've done quite a bit to say the very least. What do you think is the universal appeal of this space? I don't think other tech segments or even other segments of different industries have this kind of appeal that just draws people from all different parts of life at different stages, all different countries and cultures, into one point. I can't say off the top of my head, what other space has done that in such a great way, in such a smooth, and you could almost say graceful way.
The last place that has done that, and I'm gonna shill my Ethiopian background. The last place that has done that was the Aksum Empire, and I say that as a joke to say, the Aksum Empire in the Ethiopian culture was a trade route, and it was it was an opportunity for a lot of cultures to come together. And so I could trace a lot of cultural backgrounds even through my DNA, but I can also trace a lot of culture, no matter what it be, religious culture, it'd be tribal culture, historic culture, scientific, anything you can think of to that Fertile Crescent area.
Culture as well. A lot of I guess you could say very skilled mercenaries who were actually from Ethiopia in the Dark Ages.
Well, I mean, we were independent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're king of the hill. You know what I'm saying? Come take it.
Right. Yeah. Well, in fact, like even as early as the Roman Empire, a lot of cavalry, mounted warriors actually came from Ethiopia because the Roman Empire, they were mostly like an infantry-based civilization, so they didn't really have a lot of like naturally, you could say, gifted or institutional, like you could say, mounted warriors. So they always kind of, contracted these kind of mercenaries from everywhere else. One of the areas was actually Ethiopia.
That is very true. King, Queen and Chief conversations will kind of towards. And
right. By the way, like I said,
actually,
I'm a huge
another
history
show.
Nerd, so I mean it by no exaggeration.
So, the creation. So, one of the things I'm doing, is helping my dad write his biography on the blockchain, in my opinion. And so, we've actually started to his original work. It's nowhere near. I'm not even near done with it, not at all. But just giving you an understanding, like blockchain has had the ability for me to bring me and my dad, which sometimes have rocky relationships when it comes to two very strong-minded people together, and to be able to work alongside what they've been able to do, and made me realize I'm an artist, and that that he was right the whole, but that I didn't have to say it, that I can still do it. So it's a joke to say that this is something that I didn't need a permission for me to work with him. It's like this is just my gift to him, and I'm just gonna be able to do something. But it's the community standard. It's the ability to build community. If you go into an Ethiopian restaurant, the first thing you're gonna see if you're being recognized is to be able to say, hey, come eat with us. That's what they say all the time. And so building community is part of the standard. And so, with that, it attracts from this space, and why mentally that is a trait that you need to have is the ability to sit down and open conversations. They say a lot, whatever you believe in, they say Jesus hung around with the common more than he did with the wealthy, and it's not to say it has nothing to do with money. It has a lot to do with knowledge per se, and that means that his circle was open to all types. That is the way I look at it. Half the time you'll find me with all my friends in Oak Cliff. Half the time you'll find me on the top of Stafford, popping champagne with one of my favorite friends now, who's on his way to $1 billion. But we don't really care. We don't give a shit. We don't talk about that part. What we talk about is having an understanding that this is a space for both of us to figure out how to work together in a sense. And so, these are the places that are creating opportunities that are bigger than even what I can imagine and to say as a general steward of this industry. But I'm going to say from my perspective, it's been an amazing one.
Yeah. And, something I've noticed, there is a natural inclination in this industry for people to want to collaborate and partner up with each other, which I don't think per se exists in many industries. There is, I guess you could say, the fundamental culture. It's very positive. Even just from jump. It's very opening. It's very it's very helpful. It's very
correct.
All these good feelings and good actions. This space seems to already have.
No, it is because, and the main reason why is because, and this is my understanding. When you get, and again, I always like to metaphor it in. Gucci Man has an interesting saying, right? Man, a lot of look, these people are a lot of times smarter than you think in a lot of spaces. So Gucci Man has been a really smart person and took rap as his vehicle. And there was one saying that he has when they asked him about having along the lines of having faith and why you should believe in something, and he said, you got to have sauce. You got to have sauce. You got to have something.
Yeah.
But you can't have too much sauce, or else you'll be lost in the sauce. And if not, you're lost, which means And for me, the way I look at it is, if you're in religion and you're too caught up in the color of Noah's Ark,
Right,
you're
or
lost
the
in the
dogma or the
sauce.
doctrine. Yeah.
If we're talking about why we had to get ready for the flood, and what the cleansing was, and why the metaphor for what that story is about, we're still on the same page. There's nothing. I mean, there's nothing that has lost in the message. And so a lot of times we lose ourselves in the fine line. And I see this in blockchain too, where people get lost in the sauce of things and become maximalists. Oh my God, Bitcoin is the best and scalable. No, Ethereum is, and all of a sudden, go depressed because they've been shooting themselves in the foot, instead of be
Right.
like, right now, this is where it's capable of. Once we bridge this capability, because the other communities already figured it out, we'll be able to scale it to that capability. Bitcoin or Ethereum or this coin does not have to figure out all of it.
Right.
And that's why at the fundamental, retool, repurpose, and being able to collaborate and delegate are the most important parts of this industry. If not, you die from the start. Because you're starting in a selfish mindset from the beginning. So you're not gonna understand that you have a community to utilize to help you alongside, and also allow the community to have a part of it, whether it be ownership, governance, whether it be ability to do whatever it is alongside from the beginning. So that's the way I look at it.
Very well said. And, it made me think of this. So being a maximalist, it kind of contradicts the whole spirit and philosophy of this.
They got lost in the sauce. We got to tell him. Gucci said it, man. Tell him Gucci said it.
I'm gonna put a note about that up later. And by the way, the way Gucci Mane explained it is actually, it makes sense. Whether you're an adult or a kid, you use that same explanation. It makes sense to both crowds. But it seems like this: if you're a maximalist.
So hey, by the way, before we lose the momentum, since we've already got Snoop Dogg on the Cardano train, I think the next one that needs to pop in is Gucci. So let's go ahead and start this train. We're gonna repurpose, retool something out of this, and get Gucci to not get lost in the sauce of whatever the hell he's doing.
Well, you know what? I think I'm gonna put out a tweet about that later.
Let's go. I'm gonna quote you, retweet you, and then I'm gonna tell MeTaFurKitty. I'm gonna tell the kitty guys to.
Hey, listen. Every culture, any type of product or service, it begins at storytelling, and storytelling is only as good as how you communicate it. So that explanation by Gucci Mane, you're an adult, you're a child, you're elderly, you're middle-aged, you're wherever, that immediately, intuitively makes sense.
So before we veer off again too much, the one thing that I'm going to tell you is inside the solar punks, and this is for your enjoyment. One of the things I've done is part of the building out of the characters is actually I'm taking a lot of. I've been really inspired, like I said, with historical. Like I love Assassin's Creed. I've played that game for hours. I love Spider-Man. Batman is one of my favorite. Batman is my character, in my opinion. They didn't know Batman was me the whole time.
Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, I played all of them. I really like Batman.
No, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
And I've taken a lot of that to add into kind of the characters' armors and all the stuff that we're going to create. But a lot of the seed actually comes from the old school armors from the Aksum era. I actually went and found a bunch of artists that are amazing, that have never been looked at. Like their work almost, like when you lose your work on from the VHS, when people went from VHS, a lot of people lost their work. I know this because my dad was a cinematographer, and he worked for a lot of film, and we're not going to veer that off into that conversation. But I grew up where we had tons of film and tons of cameras, and I've seen so much things being lost from not being transferred into to the next digitization of things. So I found a bunch of state-of-the-art looking armor on a lot of these really cool warriors from back in the day, and kind of used them as the seed for for the solar punk movement. And it's gonna have that feel of Iron Man 3.0 in Texas, solar cowboy style movement.
Listen, I'm looking forward to that. And by the way, specific examples of that armor, please send them my way. Like I said, I'm a huge history nerd for that. for that
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
no.
stuff.
By the
So
way, this is
send it
just
my way.
by the way,
Yeah.
I don't even care if anybody even listening to this. The cool part I've learned is this is this type of stuff like you're seeding for later in like 4 years when people listen back like, holy shit, he was already telling us the whole time. And so this is just for the documentation purpose. But what's going to happen is we're probably going to, find a lot of people will find a lot of resonation with that. So if what I'm saying about this project is resonating with a lot of people, that's part of why we're creating community, so that we can incorporate everything that creates a community that's more inclusive of all the different things we're going through as a journey.
Got it. And you know what? Maybe this can be something that could be considered or included in the future. Now, there's a special type of weapon that either originated in Ethiopia or the immediate surrounding areas. I forgot the name, and of course, I don't want to butcher the name's pronunciation either. But it's essentially it's a melee weapon. It could be used handheld or throwing. So it's essentially a sword and an axe combined, and it's essentially curved in many different
pretty much
directions.
like a boomerang,
It's almost
boomerang
exactly.
style.
It
Yeah,
actually it's actually very
boomerang.
like,
It's yeah.
right. So like you could strike, you could slash it, you could also hook. I guess you could say the opponent's weapons in it.
So let me tell you
Yeah.
something really crazy. So one of my favorite phones out there on the market is the LG Wing, and the LG Wing literally opens up like a two phone. And again, I'm gonna have a lot of this stuff coming out as we go, and I'm gonna probably share it on this live, and so that people that want to understand what I'm talking about can understand. But this LG Wing opens up into pretty much like a cross slash sword slash like cross, melee weapon looking thing. And actually, when you digitize it, the thing looks like all these digital like force fields that open up on a lot of like cyberpunk movements, where they have like their little digital movement, and all of a sudden you have like a circle that opens up, right? It's the same mechanism. Underneath the engineering is the same mechanism. It just happens to be another square. So if you actually take that engineering and digitize that through a lot of different means, and then be able to overlay an actual, scene over it, you can pretty much turn that into any out there that is malleable. So
good stuff.
let's just go ahead and create one for you as an NFT. That'll be your unique weapon.
Yeah.
We'll call it the Atom Back.
Works for me. Listen. Hey, I'm
because
just
you
happy
think
to
it's
get
gone,
one, so.
we think it's gone, but it's gonna come back. So Atom's back.
I'm back.
It's a boomerang.
It's like a boomerang. Yeah, like if you find it first or not, I'm gonna try to find the name later of it, because like I said, I love learning stuff like that, and I've seen it in museums, I've seen it in documentaries, and like I said, the name escapes me, but I think if you made an NFT like dedicated to, let's say, ancient, dark age, let's say medieval Ethiopian, let's say, whether they're generals, whether they're foot soldiers, whether they're like mounted warriors, like I think there would be a great appeal and audience for that type of thing.
No, I agree with you, and I think that it'll be a really cool way of being able to cross-reference the different ways of how everybody, like I said, going back to everything, how everybody's able to still tell their story while allowing everybody else to interweave their journey alongside you. So I appreciate that, and since I'm a mobile and we're out in the middle of a lot of different things, I wasn't able to do the interactive way, but usually I would have like 4 things going in my office with four screens and have all
let's do it on a
chats going.
Episode, then.
And so we'll be able to, this is just an opportunity. So I appreciate you for giving us this opportunity to begin with. Okay, I really do.
Yeah, no problem. And listen, just on an ending note, what does MeTaFurKitties and your other projects have in store for 2022?
Yeah, so this is the cool part. So I'm really excited because once we're past this first series, which that's not even the point. I think we've got the traction to be able to make this a really good thing. But the whole point of this whole series, and I'm actually going to read this, from our little light paper, but I'm going to actually share the light paper from you.
Sure.
But this is ultimately what we're looking at. Okay, I'm going to kind of start from the second series, because what you're looking at as MeTaFurKitties is the first series. The second series will be more limited and involves in more sustainability and intricate NFT cat themed art, with the funding goal of supporting each cat through the sanctuary. So essentially, we're gonna actually create like an ability for us to take each cat like at the Lanai sanctuary and have an ability for you to like adopt it virtually.
Yeah.
And have a representation of it that you can hang out with.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is we kind of came up with this as a funny thing because we're like, I love cats, but my buddy Alejandro has Bengal tigers or Bengal cats. I call them Bengal tigers because they have like dogs, and that's another thing that we can go into. But these things are very, very hyperallergenic, so they don't actually bother my allergy. And sometimes I am allergic to cats, and so it's my mission to be able to adopt a cat virtually that I can hang out with all the time, no matter if it is going to make me sneeze or not. And so it was a kind of a joke, but it is kind of how the second series type of conversation started. But for the most part, I'm gonna give a big shout out to Greg Nuss and Rachel Lambeth for really coming up with an awesome strategy and roadmap to how we're gonna include a lot of other sanctuaries and 501c 501c organizations that already are going to be taking into this conversation. So this is kind of what we're going to look at. So upon completion of the 3 series, we believe that the mission and the project will have received national press coverage and location, which is in Hawaii, is in an affluent donor area overall with unique mission themed with Lanai Cat Sanctuary opportunities. So we're going to include the actual community alongside us to be able to include the next launch of a bunch of other charities alongside for cats. So the charities kind of chosen for the 3rd to the 9th series were chosen based on their mission, transparency ratings, and the impact on both the domestic and feral cats. And then what I'm going to actually add on to is, I as a profession run ESG analytics through our company. That's kind of what we work with. And actually, me and Greg Nuss, our overall mission with Cardano started with, like I said, the NFT funding for solar. So we'll also include NFT ESG strategies. So everything that meets the sustainability strategies of what Cardano is looking for what proof of stake is looking for, we'll have a lot of these let's just say organizations. So the ones that we have right now are alleycat.org. So on the 3rd series, we hope to work with alleycat.org. On the 4th series, we'll be with icatcare.org. On the 5th series, we'll be with seniorcatnetwork.org. 6th series will be in collaboration with morrisonannafoundation.org. On the 7th series, we'll be in collaborating with other NFT projects, with the funding going strictly to reinvest into the projects of other animal mission-driven NFT artists and projects. So even though we talk shit initially on a light paper saying that, we never really found a huge use case for a lot of the projects that we see, our goal is to reinvest all of this opportunity because the whole point is community-driven. You should be able to come back to grow the community together. So that's kind of what we believe our 7th series roadmap should be in the long run. And then the 8th series will be in collaboration with bestfriends.org. On the 9th series, we'll be a community-driven with the MeTaFur community voting on with charity or charities to sponsor. The goal is, by the 9th series, kind of have an autonomous DAO take over the general consensus while, we go off play crypto punks or something, By that time, we should be done, right?
Yeah. Well, listen, Eyob, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And, I was glad that you got to expand and kind of articulate a lot of these, you could almost say textbook definitions of, different aspects of blockchain and cryptocurrency. Because I think a lot of times, if you go to other sources, they're not explained quite well, or at least not explained in the most efficient way. So, having this conversation where, let's say you and I, can, do a Q&A and you can kind of expand on these things, these explanations are quite helpful, especially, having a wordsmith such as yourself. This gives context and flavor to a lot of this. So,
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. And it comes from, Jamie, my background with door-to-door knocking, because as Jamie Foxx put it, 2 years of door knocking is like it's like a bachelor's degree in communications.
I can imagine.
And door knocking has helped me really have find the ability to really be direct and get to the point. If not, things can go south pretty well,
Yeah, exactly.
So I appreciate that, because that is the whole point, is get to the meat of the bone. And I talk this way all the time. Sometimes it becomes a friction conversation because some people like to sugarcoat things for their own agenda. And I'm never going to be that way. So this is another reason why I'm in the blockchain community. Everything that I've done so far to this day has been through voluntary opportunities, Web3 style opportunities, in a sense, of people voluntarily working alongside me. I have not taken a dime of debt from anybody in general, unless it was through voluntary means. And when I say about that is, I don't have to call to any organization that has a preconceived idea of how they'll like to use, me as a vehicle, unless it was in a genuine manner. And so this is an appreciation to that in general. So I appreciate that also, because this is the vehicle and journey that have us talking to people like you. And so this is going to go a long way for the journey moving forward.
Smoothly put. I don't think I could add anything better to that ending note. So again, Eyob, thank you very much. I'll be talking to you soon, and I'll be seeing you later this year in Texas.
All right, one more shout out. Solar Cowboy song will be coming out on iTunes pretty soon.
Yes, everyone, check out the Solar Cowboy.
Remember, we what did we say? We shield with honor. So you're gonna learn a lot about solar energy with this song. So, by the way, man, I really do appreciate you. By the way, what do you have going on with your NFT project that I saw going on, or what was it?
Love.io?
No, the other one.
Oh, you mean Alchemy Pay?
Alchemy Pay, but I'm saying, like, what's your? I had the poster that I looked at. It had Adam something.
That's the Space Albert.
Space Albert.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing some more projects with them.
Chill it up, man. Say something. Say something.
Yeah, I will. Oh, trust me.
No, right now, because you never know. I might be cutting it up and using it so that I can make memes out of you.
Everyone, listen. What could be a better idea, or among the best ideas for an NFT collection, other than one that is dedicated to a time-traveling Albert Einstein with a spacesuit? Yeah, goes in outer space. He goes into prehistoric times. He goes into every single different time period, and you could say, every aspect and every part of the solar system. Adults, kids, you can get into this. Check out Space Alberts.
Dude, do you know why I asked you that, by the way?
Why?
It was a setup. I set you up because I looked into it a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna send you. I can't find it right now because I don't want to lose momentum. I'm gonna send you a startup that was working on pretty much chatbots, and he was pretty much teaching the chatbots to talk about different historic people. So he was going around researching how Albert Einstein would have a conversation with you and building the actual chatbots alongside them. I'm going to forward you that, because that is the reason why I asked you this stuff, because I actually like what you're doing. And I've been into chatbot building, because a lot of times the way you train your chatbot has a lot to do with the way it responds back. So it's been an amazing ability for me to understand how you're doing your project. But I will give feedback to it, or give you what I have going on, because it's just lying around. It's just that we don't want good knowledge to gather dust. That's the whole point.
Right.
It's gonna go down before we need it to be utilized
very soon. So thank you for lighting the spark there.
No, for sure, man. Adam goes to space in the whatever. What was it again? You got what was your what was your project name?
Oh, Space Alberts.
Space Albert. I just said Adam goes to space. Space Albert.
Yeah, well, I'll be doing some of that too. Through my NFT.
Listen.
So.
The clip right here of me butchering your business is probably the one that's gonna probably give you the viral need. So I'm gonna need a cut of that. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, listen. No worries. I can send it your way later. hey, listen.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Thanks.